Jack London, The Story of an Eyewitness. The earthquake shook down in San Francisco hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of walls and chimneys. But the conflagration that followed burned up hundreds of millions of dollars worth of property. There is no estimating within hundreds of millions the actual damage wrought. Not in history has a modern imperial city been so completely destroyed. San Francisco is gone. Nothing remains of it but memories and a fringe of dwelling houses on its outskirts. Its industrial section is wiped out. Its social and residential section is wiped out. The factories and warehouses, the great stores and newspaper buildings, the hotels, and the palaces of the nabobs are all gone. Remains only the fringe of dwelling houses on the outskirts of what was once San Francisco. Within an hour after the earthquake shocked the smoke of San Francisco's burning was a lurid tower visible 100 miles away. And for 3 days and nights, this lurid tower swayed in the sky, reddening the sun, darkening the day, and filling the land with smoke. On Wednesday morning, at 5:15, came the earthquake. A minute later, the flames were leaping upward. In a dozen different quarters south of Market Street, in the working-class ghetto, and in the factories, fires started. There was no opposing the flames. There was no organization, no communication. All the cunning adjustments of a 20th century city had been smashed by the earthquake. The streets were humped into ridges and depressions and piled with debris of fallen walls. The steel rails were twisted into perpendicular and horizontal angles. The telephone and telegraph systems were disrupted, and the great water mains had burst. All the shrewd contrivances and safeguards of man had been thrown out of gear by 30 seconds twitching of the earth crust. By Wednesday afternoon, inside of 12 hours, half of the heart of the city was gone. At that time, I watched the vast conflagration from out on the bay. It was dead calm. Not a flicker of wind stirred. Yet, from every side, wind was pouring in upon the city. East, west, north, and south, strong winds were blowing upon the doomed city. The heated air rising made an enormous suck. Thus did the fire of itself build its own colossal chimney through the atmosphere. Day and night, the dead calm continued, and yet near the flames, the wind was often half a gale, so mighty was the suck. The edict which prevented chaos was the following proclamation by Mayor E. Schmitz, quote, "The federal troops, the members of the regular police force, and all special police officers have been authorized to kill any and all persons found engaging in looting or in the commission of any other crime. I have directed all the gas and electric lighting companies not to turn on gas or electricity until I order them to do so. You may, therefore, expect the city to remain in darkness for an indefinite time. I request all citizens to remain at home from darkness until daylight of every night until order is restored. I warn all citizens of the danger of fire from damaged or destroyed chimneys, broken or leaking gas pipes or fixtures, or any like cause." Wednesday night saw the destruction of the very heart of the city. Dynamite was lavishly used, and many of San Francisco's proudest structures were crumbled by man himself into ruins, but there was no withstanding the onrush of the flames. Time and again, successful stands were made by the firefighters, and every time the flames flanked around on either side or came up from the rear and turned to defeat the hard-won victory. An enumeration of the buildings destroyed would be a directory of San Francisco. An enumeration of the buildings undestroyed would be a line and several addresses. An enumeration of the deeds of heroism would stock a library and bankrupt the Carnegie Medal Fund. An enumeration of the dead will never be made. All vestiges of them were destroyed by the flames. The number of the victims of the earthquake will never be known. South of Market Street, where the loss of life was particularly heavy, was the first to catch fire. Remarkable as it may seem, Wednesday night, while the whole city crashed and roared into ruin, was a quiet night. There were no crowds, there was no shouting and yelling, there was no hysteria, no disorder. I passed Wednesday night in the part of the advancing flames, and in all those terrible hours I saw not one woman who wept, not one man who was excited, not one person who was in the slightest degree panic-stricken. Before the flames, throughout the night, fled tens of thousands of homeless ones. Some were wrapped in blankets, others carried bundles of bedding and dear household treasures. Sometimes a whole family was harnessed to a carriage or delivery wagon that was weighted down with their possessions. Baby buggies, toy wagons, and go-karts were used as trucks, while every other person was dragging a trunk. Yet everybody was gracious. The most perfect courtesy obtained. Never in all San Francisco's history were her people so kind and courteous as on the night of terror. All the night these tens of thousands fled before the flames. Many of them, the poor people from the labor ghetto, had fled all day as well. They had left their homes burdened with possessions. Now and again they lightened up, flinging out upon the street clothing and treasures they had dragged for miles. Question number 1. In paragraph 2, what is the lurid tower? A, the reddening sky. B, smoke from the fire. C, a tall, burning building. Or D, a swaying bridge in the distance. Number 2. According to paragraph 3, which of the following is an example of a cunning adjustment of the 20th century? A, factories. B, chimneys. C, telegraph system. D, trains. Number 3. According to the language used in paragraph 10, the writer compares the firefighters to A, construction workers. B, troops on the battlefield. C, citizens in danger. D, heroes. Number 4. What is the effect of the repetition of enumeration in paragraph 11? A, to make the sentence rhyme. B, to emphasize the significance of the earthquake's impact. C, to remind the reader of how expensive the damage had been. D, to keep the reader's attention. Read each passage and answer the question that follows. The coming decades will likely see more intense clustering of jobs, innovation, and productivity in a smaller number of bigger cities and city regions. Some regions could end up bloating beyond the capacity of their infrastructure, while others struggle, their promise stymied by inadequate human or other resources. Number 5. As used in line 55, intense most nearly means A, emotional. B, packed tightly. C, brilliant. D, determined. As Kingman developed as a painter, his works were often compared to paintings by Chinese landscape artists dating back to CE 960, a time when a strong tradition of landscape paintings emerged in Chinese art. Kingman, however, vacated from that tradition in a number of ways, most notably in that he chose to focus not on natural landscapes such as mountains and rivers, but on cities. Number 6. As used in this passage, vacated most nearly means A, evacuated. B, departed. C, retired. D, attacked. Read each passage and answer the question that follows. Sailing to new horizons. You might take a car, a bus, or a bike to school, but in Bangladesh, instead of waiting for a school bus to come down their street, many students wait for a school boat to come down the river. That's right, these students attend school on a boat. Bangladesh is very close to sea level. For this reason, the land is flooded for 5 months of every year. The flooding creates many problems. For the nearly 160 million people living there, the periodic flooding means that they are often unable to access roads, electricity, or telephones. Growing up in Bangladesh, Mohammad Rezwan was often frustrated by these disruptions. Though the floods sometimes hindered his education, Rezwan eventually finished school and became an architect. He did not want to design houses, though. He had a better idea. In 1998, he founded an organization called Shadula Swamar Shangatha. The name means self-reliance. The purpose of the organization is to help the people of Bangladesh receive an education, and also to bring technology and an improved quality of life to poor people in remote areas of the country. In 2002, Rezwan began transforming boats into schools. The boats he used were long and narrow, with flat bottoms so that they could float in shallow water. The decks were covered by waterproof roofs to protect the inside of the classroom from rain. Underneath the roofs were desks, books, bookshelves, and computers. Each boat was built to accommodate between 30 and 35 students. The boats had everything you might find in a regular classroom. The only difference was that they were buoyant and on a river. These boats have been a great success. Today, Rezwan and his organization operate 88 boats that navigate hundreds of rivers in northern Bangladesh. About half the boats are used as schools, and the other half are used as temporary houses during the flood seasons. In addition to the schools and the temporary housing, there are also a floating technology and training center, a library that allows students to check out books, and healthcare center. The school boats travel along the rivers and pick up students for classes that include computer technology, agriculture, and human rights. After one session finishes, the boat drops the students off at home and picks up more students. Teachers on the boats usually conduct 3 or 4 sessions every day. At night, the boats provide additional learning opportunities for students and community members. Adults attend evening literacy courses. Students study using solar lamps that are charged during the day at stations near the river. Special equipment on the boats also projects lessons onto big screens made from sailcloth. People can come down to the riverbank to watch web tutorials, documentaries, and other films. In all, these boats help educate close to 90,000 families in Bangladesh. Parents who live in the flood area are happy to have the boats in their communities. When asked about the program, Farida, whose 6-year-old daughter attends a class on the school boat, said, "It was difficult for my parents to send me to school, but now all the facilities are in the village. I have started planning for my daughter's future education. I want to see her become a doctor or engineer." By floating down these rivers, the school boats deliver more than books. They deliver knowledge, opportunity, and hope to all generations. "The library boat inspired me," said 18-year-old student Shanto Islam, who enjoys reading science fiction books. "I started to dream Islam, now wants to attend a university." Read these sentences from paragraph 7. "It was difficult for my parents to send me to school, but now all of the facilities are in the village. I have started planning for my daughter's future education. I want to see her become a doctor or engineer." This quotation shows that A. Rezwan's efforts have improved educational conditions for future generations. B. Farida thinks that there are enough facilities in her village to serve all the children. C. Rezwan believes that his school boats will create many doctors and engineers. D. Farida's own difficulties in attending school cause her to be doubtful about her daughter's education. Number 8. As used in paragraph 2, what does the word periodic mean? A. Regularly occurring. B. Unexpected. C. Previous. D. Seldom repeated. Number 9. As used in paragraph 3, the word buoyant means what? A. Rise. B. Lifted. C. Float. D. Slide along. Number 10. As used in paragraph 4, what does the word accommodate mean? Hold, put up with, take, or deal with.